Hello and welcome to today's webinar, a revolution for the electrical industry webinar with an electrical contractors focus. This webinar is brought to you by Applied Software, the premier software systems integrator in North America. I am Cliff Trotter and I'm delighted to be your moderator today. Throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with us by typing in questions and comments using the questions pane. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to you online on our YouTube channel. We will also send you an email following the webinar with a link to the recording. If you haven't already, search Applied Software on Facebook and like our page to receive the latest information and special offers. When you visit our website, asti.com, there is a complete schedule of upcoming events, webinars, trainings, and more. Please take note of our upcoming webinars, BEM 360 Hangout, utilizing your Navisworks model and BEM 360 field. The date is going to be Thursday, May 5th. Time is going to run from 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And next is the Revit for commercial contractors for BEM, building electrical modeling. Date is Friday, May 6th. Time is 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please also take note of our upcoming events. The AEC Georgia Construction Conference. Date is Friday, May 27th. And time is 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. It'll be Eastern Standard Time, and that's going to be located at the Georgia International Convention Center in Atlanta. Next up is the Offshore Technology Conference. Dates are going to be May 2nd through May 5th. Our booth number is going to be 6016, and the location is NRG Park, 1 Reliant Parkway, Houston, Texas. And last but not least, the BEM and Beer in Washington, D.C. The date is Thursday, May 19th. Time is 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that will be located at the District Chop House and Brewery. Following the Q&A at the end of the webinar, we will randomly give away a $25 Visa gift card. You must be present to win the gift card. Roy Labardette will be our presenter today. He's an electrical designer with 35 years of experience in the oil and gas industry, and also our Director of Building Electrical Modeling Services. Please join me in welcoming today's speaker, Roy Labardette.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roy Labardette. I've been an electrical designer for 35 years and working with this car software for the last 10 years. And about 6 months ago, I joined the Applied Software team full-time. So while I've had a lot of experience working in an office environment, living the same challenges that you live every day of, meeting deliverables and project schedules and budgets and such. So I'm very sympathetic and understanding to the challenges that you face in your everyday work. So what I wanted to do is to talk about the way the car software is actually going to help us do our business. As electrical folks, we usually wait for other people to give us information. So we'll get our load information from a P&ID or a mechanical equipment list or some other source, depending on which industry you're in. And we start to use this information over and over and over on several different deliverables. Our load list and our one lines and our wiring diagrams, our plan drawings, our cable schedules, etc. So what the car software will do is allow us to enter the data into a database, and then we will be able to drive from the database all of these deliverables in a consistent manner that is going to ensure that we've got consistency across all of our deliverables. It's going to make quality control a lot better and allow us to do our checking a lot more efficiently. There are 4 modules that are integrated into the software. And any information that you enter in any of these modules or in any form into the database is synchronized and shared across all of the different modules, and that's how we ensure the consistency. Loadmatic is the module that engineering will use to build their load list and one-line diagrams. Traymatic is the module that we'll use to build our raceway and locate our equipment. And then we'll use Cablematic to actually route the cables based on the cable schedule through the raceway system. It'll also create a lot of the report. The cable schedule, the cable takeoffs, and a lot of the other drop calculations and such are all coordinated through the Cablematic software. So once engineering issues their drawings, and this is going to be the focus of our presentation today, we're going to go into Cablematic Builder. This data that we've generated in the engineering office, we will typically create a bunch of paper deliverables and maybe Excel spreadsheets, and on a really good day we'll get some electronic files. Well, now we'll have the database available to the folks in the field who are actually doing the construction. So they'll be able to use this database, create pull tickets, termination reports, do pull planning, assign cables to specific reels, plan their pulls, and keep track of their inventory and the status on the project. And then any information that construction needs, they will, the construction will be working with their database. They will be able to synchronize with the engineering database on a regular basis, whether it's daily or weekly. So the engineering office and the construction field office will always be synchronized and same data and keeping up with the latest events and latest changes in the project. Some of the reports that we'll be able to generate are going to be, cable takeoffs, which we will be able to do and I'm going to show you this in a little bit more detail, and also our cable and conduit material takeoffs. Another thing that we'll be able to do is very quickly take a look at saving some cost on a project. If we designed it in copper and we needed to switch over to aluminum conductor to reduce the cost of the installation, we could do that very quickly by using the program, and it will not only adjust the conductor size based on the larger diameter of the aluminum conductors, it will also recalculate the tray fill and recalculate the conduit fill and adjust the conduit sizes if needed. We've got some really good tools to help you with your pull planning. On each conduit, it'll give us a list of the cables or conductors that are in that particular conduit, and it will allow us to set some various different variables and scenarios to see how we can avoid some of the problems that we're seeing in installing cable. It'll project our jam probability, give us a list of the cables contained, the coefficients of friction, the sidewall pressure, and the maximum pulling tension, and it will highlight the areas that are potentially going to be problems. We'll also be able to print pull and termination tickets, so the field can then keep track of which, not only the cables, but also which raceways have been installed, which cables have been pulled, which cables have been terminated, and keep track of that information and get their status reports. As we pull cables off of our reels, we'll be able to keep track of our material status. The reel reports will keep the date ordered, the cable type, the reel ID, purchase order number, the date it was received, the date it was shipped, how much was the original length, and how much is remaining as we go through and pull various runs off of there. We're also able to interface with the Brady labeling system to enable creation of cable and wire markers. And the program is going to keep track of revisions for us, revisions to cable, terminations, and raceways. So as things change throughout our project, as I said, we can keep up and be coordinated. And then we'll be able to get status reports. We'll be able to get a list of the raceways and cables that are in design status, as they've been issued for construction and the progress is occurring in the field. That'll be able to be reported, as well as what work is remaining to be done. Let's take a look at the software. The project that I want to show you is actually done in Revit. This is a critical service data center where we've got a couple of generators generating in medium voltage, feeding medium voltage switch gear, then stepping down on these transformers to go back into our low voltage switch gear, and then we're going to distribute through our main distribution panels to some UPS panels, to some air conditioning units, and then in the back I've got some transformers and lighting panels. And then we're going to drop out of these panels into a raceway subfloor cable tray so that we can feed power to all of our racks. from the UPS on this side and from the lighting panels on that side. Raceways have all been modeled in Revit. Our program does have some capability to auto-route raceways that will be Revit compatible. And when you use R cars or Revit cars in, it will add this interface to your Revit palette, where you can actually export anything that you model in Revit. You will export to cars, and anything that you modify or change, particularly raceway size changes, as the program makes these adjustments, you'll be able to import those changes back into the program from cars. So here's our interface. We'll be able to identify our equipment, raceways, and cables, and it's kind of neat, because if you, for example, wanted to select these two pieces of equipment, I'll try that again. Select these two pieces of equipment, I can add the cables that are connected to that equipment, and then I can route the cables straight away from this interface. The program will fire up, and this is the other screen I wanted to show you, and it'll show you the actual route length that it used for those particular cables. Now, routing 4 cables through a conduit is not terribly challenging, but let's take a look at all of the cables on this project. So this is my cable schedule interface here. And here I've got a list of all of my cables, and in order to route cables, I'll need to have a unique cable tag, a cable specification where we will identify the size of the cable, and then there's a lookup table to have the pertinent information, such as the cable OD and ampacities and such. And then we'll have our segregation codes, which is the voltage level, because we don't want to route medium voltage cable in a safety cable tray or power tray without a divider. So we are able to separate our voltage levels at the cable level and at the raceway level to ensure that they're compatible. And then, of course, we have to have a source and a destination. So let me go ahead and copy this cable, and there are 314 cables in this list. And I'm going to go ahead and do a quick batch routing, and I've got some variables that I can set here. I'm just going to take the defaults for this purpose. Now, I don't know how long it would take to route. Well, I do know how long it would take to route them manually. If I had to route 314 cables through a raceway while doing a cable takeoff and tray fill, and conduit sizing, that would probably take, some length of time. But the program just did all of that. So I can then show you in my design reports, my tray fill reports, and get a list of the cables contained. It's asking me if I want to resize my raceways, and I usually don't do that with cable tray. I will with conduit. But it's going to tell me that on this particular raceway, it is a 36-inch by 6-inch high aluminum ladder tray, and it is 57% full based on this section of the National Electrical Code. And here's a list of all of the cables that were routed in that raceway. And it gives me this information for each of our raceways. Now, when we set up our project, we can set up a fill percentage, and in my case, I have a 20% reserve. So the program will not exceed 80% fill on any cable tray. The next report I'd like to show you is our conduit report, with the cables contained again in our conduit. In this case, I just want a smaller list of conduits because I've got many, many of them in this database. So we'll go ahead and run that report, and here I do want to resize, so it's going to take it just a minute, and it will do 100 conduits, and it's resized those based on the cables that we actually routed. So in this case, this conduit has one feeder in it. It's a 2-inch EMT, and it's 32% full. The maximum allowable in that particular case is 40%. So if we scroll down through here, I'm going to find that this is a multi-conductor cable, so since there's only one cable jacket, I'm allowed 53% fill in that case, and in this particular cable only used 46%, so it's still within code. So there's a list of our cables. In the case of our duct banks, I put in a 4-inch PVC. The program could have resized this to be much smaller, as you see. But when in a duct bank, I always want to make sure that I'll lock my cable size. So even though I told it to go ahead and resize those conduits, it's not going to do it on a conduit size that we've locked so that we have control. Next report is going to be my cable takeoff. And this is going to give us, and I'm going to show you this in a different format also. This is a Word report, but it will quickly give us our cable takeoff for each size and type separated by color and manufacturer catalog number. It gives us a total length. Same thing for our multi-conductor cables. So scroll down to the bottom of this report, and you'll see that in that short time we routed over 38,000 feet of cable. Okay. The other report that I wanted to show you is our design summary status report, and if I get a cable report here, it's going to bring up my Excel spreadsheet. It's basically the same information we just looked at, where I've got each cable type and color separated with the manufacturer and stock number, as well as the length. But it's also given me a black jacket estimate. So if I'm not going to use color-coded jackets and just wanted to use black jackets and then color code with tape at the end, I would then have that information available. And also for quick estimating purposes, it gives me an aluminum alternative. So any of these cables that have an aluminum equivalent, it is going to resize for the different ampacity of aluminum conductors and will give me that takeoff as well. So I can quickly evaluate any cost savings by converting to aluminum. If I choose to go to aluminum, I can tell the program I'm doing that, and it will automatically resize all of my conduits based on aluminum sizes. Okay. Now let me switch back to my model. I want to show you another cool feature. Let me clear this screen, and I'm going to zoom up on one of these conduits. Let me just pick on one conduit here, and this is going to be I can add my pull calc function, and it brings up this screen that's showing me the pull tension calculation based on the cable spec that we've created for this project. So it's going to tell me the 4 conductors, the 4 different color conductors that are in there. I've got 3 current carrying conductors and a smaller ground, which I've created when I created my feeder types. It's also going to tell me the total number of bends, and in this case I've got 675 degrees of bend. Now we all know I'd have to add a pull box in order to be able to actually meet the code to stay under 360 degrees. But what I wanted to show you is that in this case, I've used a 2-inch conduit and it's 11.5% full, and the report is going to tell me that even though I've got more bends than are allowed by code, I could actually make this pull without exceeding either the pulling tension or the sidewall maximum pressures. The program is also telling me that the minimum allowable size would be 1.25 inches. So I have the ability then to change to 1.25 inch conduit, and it's going to recalculate my pull tensions, and using 1.25 inch conduit, I would be okay on pull tension, but I would have exceeded my sidewall pressure. So it's highlighting the areas that are of concern. I could alleviate that problem by using a larger radius bend, and it gets it back down under the allowable. Now another thing, this is a very low coefficient of friction because this is using the Southwire simple cable jackets, which are proprietary to Southwire. If we were to use a more traditional 0.25 coefficient of friction on a standard cable, you can see then that the sidewall pressures are going to exceed the allowable as well as the pulling tension. So in this case, we would have to install and actually use the pull box. So we'd have to have 2 pulls to make this, to get this cable installed. I could try reversing the pull to see if that helps, and in some cases it does. In this case, it didn't completely solve the problem. Another option would be to go to a larger conduit and watch the numbers change as I switch. So even at a larger conduit, it's still not working. If I go to maybe a 3-inch conduit, it's still not working. So if I go to a 3-inch conduit with a larger bend radius, it's still not working. So that just shows you that the coefficient of friction on the proprietary Southwire cable is a big advantage. But we do have options, and the program will allow us to exercise those options. Now what I want to do is go ahead and set this back to a standard bend and change it to a 4-inch conduit. And I want to do this for a different reason. In Revit, we've modeled 2-inch conduit. So when I change it here, if I save and update, it's going to go into my Revit model, and it's actually going to change the size of the conduit in my model for me. So that's a big advantage. Now, it's not going to solve my problem of having an interference with the conduit adjacent to it, but at least now I've got a Revit conduit that has been updated that I can go in and modify and tweak, and it saves me from having to make a lot of manual adjustments. Okay, let me get out of this for a second, and I want to show you a little bit different project. I want to show you the construction module real quick, some of the functionality that we have there. If I open this project, here is my construction module interface. And here I've got builder's data where I can actually query information that's in the engineering database. Now I can't change it, but I can look at it to see what information I need. So I could query the cables, and I get a list of all of the cables, and this was actually filtered for only cables that have been approved for construction. So these are the cables that engineering has actually released for me to work on. I'm going to copy one of these cables. I've got other queries that I can do, and when I go to my installation and I'll go to cable pulls, I'm going to go to my pull tickets and custom query. I'm going to go ahead and paste that cable number in here. All right. Let me try it again. There we go. Paste it in here. Now I have to pick a foreman, and I'm going to pick myself for this particular pull. And the program is going to warn me that this pull ticket has already been printed and the cable was actually already pulled. So the program is alerting me to the fact that I've selected a cable to send out to the field that's already been installed. So let me go ahead and cancel that. Go back to builder's data and pick a different cable. Let me pick one of these down here. Helps to alleviate mistakes and wasted time by being able to query your database and to get specific reports. And in this case, I'll go ahead and pull it. Now, this ticket has already been printed a while back, so the ticket's already out in the field, but it's not reporting that cable is being pulled. So let me go ahead and print the ticket again, just to show you what these pull tickets look like. It's going to tell me the cable number. It's going to tell me the cable type, the from device, and the to device where I'm actually going to pull it, and it's going to give me a route, a list of the routes that the cable needs to be pulled. I've got my area down here to record the progress, who actually did the work, the real number that I pulled the cable from, and the foot marker or the cut length that I actually pulled off of that reel. And I've got my quality control section down at the bottom so that the inspector can, go by and verify that the work was actually done and that things were actually done correctly. So these tickets actually go out to the field, and then the information that's recorded on these tickets is going to be recorded back in our database. Do I want to pick print tickets for the conduits? I'm not going to do that right now, but I do want to show you the cable termination report. Now this particular cable happened to be a 24-pair cable, and I picked that one so I would have a report that had some, a lot of information on it. Again, it's telling me my from and my two destinations, and my termination point on the DCS, and also my termination point in the instrument junction box, as well as the color and the wire markers. Again, down at the bottom, I've got my information where I can record who actually did the work, and my quality control section for my superintendent or my inspector to make his notes at the as that is done. As we mentioned earlier, I'm not going to do it, but I can create a report that's compatible with our Brady marker system to create cable markers and wire markers. Now, once that's done, I'm going to go to my reports, and I'm going to take a look at my cable reel. And this is going to tell me that I've got 5 reels that I've identified on this project. Now, I pulled those cables off of reel 24P001, and that reel was received on this date. I put in a purchase order number, the date that we ordered it, the date that it was shipped, so I can keep track of my inventory very accurately. Also, the original length on that reel and the length remaining as we pull cables off of that reel is available to me in this report. So I can keep track of my inventory, and I can compare what my planned pulls were against what my actual pulls were. So that was kind of a whirlwind tour. I showed you a whole bunch of options and a whole bunch of information on the some of the features of the program. It obviously does a lot more than that. So if you'd like to have a actual live demonstration, please get in touch with your sales rep at Applied Software, and we'll be happy to set up an online webinar just for you and your team so we can take a look at your specific projects and specific needs and requirements. So we'll show you how the program will be able to work to help you be more efficient in your everyday working environments. So I want to thank you for your time and participation. Right now, I'm going to turn it back over to Cliff to see if we've picked up any questions.
Yes,
Cliff?
we sure have. We've got one question here. This is from Gavin Hartz. Could you change the program for Canadian electrical code?
Not at this time. The Canadian code is very similar to the National Electrical Code, so the program will give you the National Electrical Code section that we're actually using, and since the codes are so similar, and I've heard that there's an effort afoot to actually combine those codes so that they will be much more similar going forward. But you do have control over which section of the code you will actually use, and there are some overrides in the program. If there's a different calculation or formula that you wanted to use, get in touch with our Southwire development team, who we have an excellent relationship with, and we'll see if we can accommodate any reasonable request in a very timely fashion.
And Roy, we've got another one here. On the spreadsheet you copied the cable from, could you add a column that states the status, ordered, pulled, etc., so you wouldn't have to go into the paste feature to see that it has already been pulled, or is that another report altogether?
There are lots of reports that I didn't show you, and the great thing about the software is it is very customizable. We've customized cable schedules and load list, and a lot of these reports have been customized. We actually have a client right now that we're working with to incorporate Excel spreadsheets for our pull and termination tickets, and those also are going to be customizable. So if you didn't see exactly what you need, don't let that stop you, because it is not uncommon to to have a custom Excel spreadsheet report created to virtually meet exactly what you used to see.
Okay, and can the distance be changed from meters to feet inside the software?
Yes, it will accommodate either metric or imperial, and that's part of the project setup at the beginning of your project. Okay,
perfect. And how is the auto routing decided inside of Revit?
The auto routing is based on there are 5 components to routing a cable. You have to have an XYZ coordinate for your origin and your destination, which are equipment that's placed in Revit, either your own Revit families that we will add some cars data to. It's not a lot of data. We just need a unique cars equipment tag. And then the next thing that we would need is a complete raceway from the origin to the destination. Now in some cases that's just one conduit. In other cases, you may have pull boxes or conduit tees, so there may be multiple conduits that the cable will actually traverse. The third component would be a cable spec. So we need to tell the program what size cable we're using, what the diameter of that cable is, etc. And then we would need a voltage level so that we ensure that the cable goes into the voltage, the proper raceway. You know, typically with conduits it's not a problem, but a lot of times if you have cable tray, you'll have medium voltage, low voltage, you know, instrumentation, maybe a safety system or a communication raceway, and you want to keep those separate to ensure that the cable voltages are not mixed in a raceway. But the way the algorithm works is it will look at the origin, the destination, the cable tag, and the cable voltage level, and then it will determine the most efficient route through the raceway system while considering the National Electrical Code fill restrictions on both cable tray and conduit.
Excellent. Thank you, Roy. And it looks like that was our last question. And unless there's another one that pops in, let me just go back here and check real quick. And yep, I think that was our last question. So at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and randomly choose a winner for our giveaway. And congratulations, Lisa Quinton New. If you're still here, if you would just type in the dialog box, I'm here, and we will gladly get you your $25 gift certificate. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today. We hope you found this webinar informative and helpful to your business. We look forward to seeing you on a future webinar, and thank you again.